go stupid. Hey.
Welcome back, Smite Game Chat. We're here. More Smite Prime action is on the way, and this time we're gonna have the BullGang versus the Bakery. Some bowls and some baked goods, Muzi. I don't know how that goes, but who do you think takes that? Just without even looking at drafts. I mean, which is better?
So, okay, well, let's take a look at the matchups, right? Bowls typically tend to do better in China shops because, bowl at a China shop, they break everything. So bakery have a lot of bread, but the bread could either be softer. Is it fresh baked? Is it stale bread? If it's stale bread, a French baguette is technically considered a lethal weapon. So the bakery could have a leg up over the bulls here if they stale their bread. However, if they don't, undoubtedly, it gets eaten by the bulls, and then they're going to end up moving on.
What if the bulls have a wheat allergy? Or maybe wheat, gluten, any type of issue like that? Then the bakery just auto wins. So maybe there's some food for thought here. Who knows, really? But we're heading in to round number 4, which means semifinals are slowly but surely on the way. We just saw Jump Machine take down Cherry Slush, which was an awesome comeback win there. I mean, comeback maybe too strong of a word. Fire Giant Steel for the win, probably a better idea here. And now we head into this game. Are you expecting any certain picks and bans as we head in? I know we've seen a little bit of a difference. Bari seems to be the subject that's mostly banned, but is there something else you would like to see today that we haven't seen yet?
So, if I had to guess, I think it's going to be a lot of what we've been seeing. Sobek seems to be a very contested pick, and that makes a lot of sense just because that character is very tanky with their passive. They can utilize the tank items very effectively while still outputting a lot of damage. The anti-heal is good. They're a beads burner. They have an execute, and executes are especially important in this matchup. So definitely expecting to see more characters like that. But before we can talk a little bit more about that, I want to take a look at these brackets with you real quick, please, to see what the rest of the crew, how they've been doing so far. Anything stick out to you, man?
Pokemon got eliminated. All right, that was one of our fan favorite names early on. But they got taken down by Content Team 6, which I don't think is too surprising to either of us based off the roster of that team. Obviously, Jump Machine's already made it into semifinals, so we do know one of the matchups is going to be there towards the end. Obviously, this next game, BullGang versus the Bakery, is here for us. We'll have to find out. Is it going to be King's Court or Sparta Super Soldiers facing off against Content Team 6? And then down at the bottom, one of the names we talked about off stream before we got started today was Ana de Armed Robbers. I'm curious to see, do they make it into the semifinals? I'm loving some of the fun names that we're seeing here on Smite Prime today. But overall, it's been a great tournament so far. Going to hopefully see some more fantastic action as we go through the day. And we're going to head in to the picks and bans here for our game. And we'll get to see, does that so make it through? Do we decide to ban it this time around? What is the plan for these two teams, the Bakery versus the BullGang?
Well, there are no bread gods, unless you say Thanatos, and no bull gods right now in the game. So kind of hard to see what the primary picks are going to be for the teams. But like I was saying before, Sobek seems to be very contested. And then, of course, the classic Bari is still incredibly strong. And then you also have gods like Aphrodite, Kabrakan, and Thor. We're looking for tanks. We're looking for initiation. We're looking for beads burners. And if we're not looking for those, we're looking for peel, a way to survive that initiation. I think the sword and spear, that front to back composition seems to be very popular right now just because of the way that the tanks are fighting. It's very difficult to all in these fights, and baiting tanks you don't seem to find too much because everybody just kind of lives even when they don't have something like an ultimate or a beads. So you need to be able to slowly bleed these fights out, use sustaining tools like Aphrodite Lovebirds or Baron Sandy Consigned Spirits to keep your health bars up until that final moment where that straw that breaks the camel's back, much like Bane does the Batman there. Then you can finally clean up a fight.
Yeah, we saw that a lot in the Cherry Slush versus Jump Machine matchup. The kind of back and forth, the one team that plays a little bit more aggressive, what they're wanting to do in their fights versus the team that wants to be able to counteract and do what they want to do in fights. These are these interesting back and forths and the differences in how these teams end up wanting to play. I will like to say, I do think there's some team mascot potential for the Bakery. Obviously, Thanatos isn't in the game, though, but Thanatos does exist. Bun Hat's also not in the game, but Hunbats does exist. And I like to do a throwback to Smite Prime from last year, where we like to talk about Ymir and what his favorite baked good would be. So, there's a couple little Bakery things here and there that maybe support them. On BullGang's side, obviously, I think the best thing that they have for them is an item in the game to be able to turn into a boar and run it down. I think that's about as bullish as you could get, some would say. We don't really have a bull god because Sun Wukong's not here yet.
You know, we could pick Cernunnos, turn people
We could.
into boars.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Artemis.
Like adjacent Artemis, you got Tusky. That's a little closer.
Okay.
We like
We're,
that.
we're close-ish. We're not like right there, but we're getting there slowly
A degree
but
of
sure.
separation, as it were.
Yeah. I like the idea here.
What's interesting about like Cernunnos as well, we saw them picked up by Jump Machine, and it occurred to me, part of the reason why Cernunnos seems to be a very attractive pick to players right now is similar to why Onher is such an attractive pick, because they have a form of penetration just in their kit available to them, both of them actually through their auto attacks. You have the autumn stance for Cernunnos to be able to get something like 15% penetration. You build Bragi's Harp or something like that, you can get up to like 17.5. They've changed the items a little bit since I last did the math, so trust me. And then, you know, on her, of course, they hit you with the spear, and then you lose some prots there. So these characters feel very strong. The difference between Onher and Cernunnos, though, Onher's got a CC immune ultimate, whereas Cernunnos doesn't have that available to them. So that's why I think Onher probably stacks up a little bit more. But Autumn Stance, I think, is a very important tool to keep an eye out for, and that's why I believe Cernunnos will be a contested pick going forward.
Well, and I also think if you look at Cernunnos, one of the things he does well, like, yeah, he doesn't have the single, I say single target, but aligned ultimate, is Cernunnos has that giant AoE ultimate, which honestly feels really, really good because you can turn everybody into boars. You're popping, you know, beads, talismans. It feels good in a team fight, especially when you have these other things that want to get rid of beads, whether it's the Artemis, the Ares, the Humbats that we've seen throughout the day. I think those are all really important as we see Thor is going to be banned away here. In the previous 2 games that we've been able to spectate and cast, he's been a top pick on both teams.
Oh yeah, well, and this character brings so much to the table. You have a semi-global ultimate, a lot of sustain and survivability because of that aspect, and they can just survive in lane and, you know, take pretty solid fights just because they have so much damage on board and they utilize items so effectively. Things like Mystical Mail and Pridwin, those line of thinking, character just does so well with it. The Sobek first pick here for the bakery, so clearly some ball knowers in that court. They want to be able to prioritize plucks, tankiness, and the classic Sobexecute.
Yeah, Sobexecute is the way. I mean, this we see some gods that we talked about, you know, as we're waiting for picks and bans to start. Sobek ends up being picked. But on the other side, Bari's gone. Again, not too surprising. I don't think we're going to see Bari today unless someone decides there's something that they need more than that, that they can let it go through. Afro gets banned away along with the Fenrir, which we've seen Fenrir be pretty active today. I don't feel like Fenrir has really maybe been the top echelon jungle as of late. I think there's some other picks that are there, but seeing him get some presence on these bans is important because he brings a lot to a team. He can play support, he can play solo, he can play jungle. That flex potentially gets really, really annoying. Kabrakan is going to be the first pick here for BullGang, and I am really curious about how this plays out because Kabrakan seems to be one of those feast or famine gods right now in Smite 2, which we don't have many of. But he is one that seems to either do quite well or he just doesn't do well based off the comp. And picking him on the first pick seems a little bit dangerous. Bacchus is the one that follows him up, and the Morgan over there for the bakery.
So where Kabrakan fits into everything, to me at least, it's a good answer in the solo lane because that character just has a lot of trouble dying, right? Being able to tear through that Kabrakan when they have those passive mitigations, it's tough trying to burn them down. So you have this god that runs around with a stun, another stun, a tremble, and then also they have their ultimate too, so you can, you know, shape the geometry of the landscape here and, you know, try to cut off corridors and take away options from players as they're trying to make their grand escape. Kabrakan is a very solid pick to have in that solo lane. What I'm curious about is this Bacchus pick that gets locked in right afterwards. So BullGang have this very aggressive composition already with their tanks where they take away a lot of beads, they take away a lot of talismans, they force ultimates, and they have a lot of chase potential. So very much fitting that bull theme.
Yeah, I think I look at the Cabrakan. I'm curious to see, could they have gotten it later and not given up that part of their draft is kind of where I'm at. Like, it gives up, like, okay, we know we're up against when it comes to both tanks now. And sometimes, I guess, from my draft experience, that's a little bit risky. But overall, I do like where they're going. They pick up the Agni. It's going to be able to help with that Cabrakan stun, the locking down of a certain area. Kurtanos, the god that we talked about not long ago, is going to have that AoE potential, plus has that built-in penetration. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see the Artemis, we see the Merlin, we see the Thanatos. It really comes down to, for our Merlin, is it a gambling player? I want to see the aspect, Musi. I want to see it. I know we're probably not going to, but like, let's have a little fun. You know what I'm saying? Just a little fun.
I mean, fun for us to watch at home, but can get a little stressful for the Merlin player, especially if they're like, all right, I really need the ice shards. No, it's the dragon breath again. Oh gosh, what am I supposed to do with this? There's a Pele on top of me. So it's you pick what's safe, especially now that we're so deep into, you know, week 1 of Smite Prime here. You want to make sure that you have a strong finish, and nothing says strong finish quite like a Pele pickup for BullGang here. So this to me is the third piece of a 3-stage dive composition. Cabrakas, that's their ship name. Cabrakan, Bacchus, and Pele, right? So you are using Cabrakan to try to bait. You're baiting your Cabrakan. They can survive a lot of damage. They're going to try to take away CC, take away ultimates, force tools out of the bakery. And then Bacchus does the same, and then Pele right afterwards.
Yeah, I think this is a really good dive comp. I hope they're able to pull it off. It's very aggressive, so I mean, they're going to have to play to get kills early. Like, this is not something that can take time to ramp up. They have to be able to go in. But the only way for us to find that out and how they're going to play is by hopping into game here. And again, have to take some time to shout out the eye in the sky, Cash Money, Mort, our production for the day, Test Die, and our admin, Jithin's, the man that makes it happen, here with us. And you can check them in the top left corner of your screen. Lovely to see them there. And now we head into the game to see how this plays out. Which comp do you end up liking better here, Musi? Are you looking towards the bakery? Are you looking towards BullGang? Which one do you think has the advantage here?
So I'm really looking at the bakery, right? And it's interesting that I'm looking at the bakery because I really like the composition from BullGang, but the bakery has a lot of flex potential, and that rests with the Morgan pick in this support.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you have a character that can turn into any god in the game and just become whatever you need her to be really speaks volumes to the play ceiling that the bakery has available to them. They could just as easily have a 3-stage dive composition like BullGang does, or they could pivot to something more like a front to back composition where you have Dishonored and Bay pushing forward, and then Aurora can hang out next to their team and turn into either Cabrakan or Bacchus whenever somebody gets too close. So they have options available to them, and options are going to be one of the strongest things available to you in a game. It's right up there with information. So really, really strong composition from the bakery. But if the BullGang, like you said, if they can hit the ground running and carry themselves through this early towards that mid-late game section, then that momentum can just win them the game.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing here. We have Aurora here on this Morgan, which I've seen played before. It is a dangerous time. You also have Donut Doug here on the Artemis. Both players are pretty well known here in the ranked grinder scene, and as far as like even playing in the Founder series and so forth. I do think there's a lot of potential in this duo lane as well as across the map, but I'm curious to see how Aurora is able to go through and play the Morgan. What's the primary target that they end up wanting to turn into? You know, how are they end up going to play this? On the other side of this, though, do the Bulls, you know, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns sometimes, and can BullGang show that off here? Because right now, the bakery is playing pretty aggressive over on the duo side, but meanwhile, everywhere else seems kind of about even.
The dual lane will have a bit more priority between Artemis and the Morgan, just because their clear is so much better than what the bakery or than what the BullGang has, right? And they're going to try to get some pressure here too, because you can see Bay in that dual lane looking to make an early gank onto the BullGang.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, if we're talking about level 5, I think this is a whole different ball game as far as the gank, because, you know, you have to worry about the Thanatos just come crashing down. But as of right now, I don't think it's anything too much to worry about. What I would worry about is Thanatos going over to the solo side through the teleporter, which is what we're seeing now. Cabrakan very much pushed up. You have the Sobek over there. Dishonor is going to be looking to make a play, and here they go. Can they get the Cabrakan early on here? Nice little bit of damage. There's the Trimble, but Sundering Arc is used. They're looking for that first blood, and the dancing around, the juke shoes from the Cabrakan feeling pretty good. J-Rod makes it happen, is able to get out, but you do get a little bit out of it. The Sunder is now off the board, so I guess that's sort of a win here with the solo lane gang.
It's so interesting because Cabrakan, like I said before, their biggest strength right now is that they just can't die. You have to dogpile onto this character in order to get rid of him. You're really going to be relying on your Thanatos execute and your Sob execute to be able to put down that character. We had some great body blocks from Dishonored and from Bayoraneri to make it happen, but Dishonored has the selflessness instead of something like a Bluestone or a Warrior's Axe, so the damage is a little bit lacking there. They aren't able to quite cross that finish line. But, you know, keep an eye on the Sobek with that starter item. Come late game, they'll be able to save their teammates from the ludicrous amounts of CC that BullGang is able to put out. They just have to get there. So Cabrakan will have a little bit of a lane advantage over the Sobek just all the way at the start of the game because of the itemization.
Yeah, and I like this idea, though, by Dishonored. Hey, I'm going to get selfless this early. I'm going to play at this disadvantage damage-wise, but later on when we get to late game, I'm going to be able to do a lot for the team fight. I'm going to be able to help set up a lot of things happening. I'm going to be able to help the team out in just a bit of a different way. You have the damage. You have Moswall here on the Merlin. You have Donut Doug here on the Artemis. Aurora can train and do it however they want. They can go into Bayoraneri if they want to and be like, hey, we're going to have double Thanatos ult. So there's a lot of play potential for the Bakery. I like this play. But speaking of Thanatos, Bayoraneri very low on health, but looking for a play here. Look at this hovering death. Doesn't get the execute, but is able to make it a turnaround for Moswall. Moswall's looking for not just one, but can you pick up two? Agni getting a little bit of damage here. Flux turning it around. Not afraid to step up Moswall here, even though the health bar isn't where you'd want it to be. But a nice little one-for-one trade. Obviously, first blood goes the way of BullGang. But now over on the duo side, here they go. Aurora changes into Pele, and oh my goodness, that's a lot of damage from the Morgan. Donut Doug plus Aurora take down the duo lane 2 for nothing. Woo! That is a lot going on there in the duo lane, and that's a scary time and answers part of our questions of, hey, who's Aurora going to change into? Why not a Pele?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. There's so much that just happened there. So all the way back by that red buff, we see that, you know, Bayoraneri is getting kind of jiggy with it over in that right side, trying to put some pressure on there, but Lizard does have Aegis, so they have an answer to that execute, but Aurora very clearly showing that they know what's going on. Oh no, not the bait, but isn't enough to get away from Pele.
Aurora just doing the juke shoes with the clones, but will end up falling. It's a 3v1. If he got out of there, I was gonna have some things to say, because that would have been absolutely wild. Gold Fury's up, and BullGang look like they're ready to pull it. Does the Bakery know is the question. Look at this, Bayoraneri is around. Ultimate is almost back up. Gold Fury burning pretty quick here, but now here we go. Lizard Fuel trying to make a play in, but gets deleted. Here comes Bayoraneri up in the air, looking for the execute. Doesn't find it, it's not there yet. And now BullGang go ahead and get the goal, but at what cost? Do they lose more off the backside of this? BullZane is in trouble. There it is, the sight doesn't connect the first time, but the swipe does. And yeah, while you got the Gold Fury, it doesn't necessarily matter when you lose 2 on the backside for nothing else.
It was such a good Cernanos ultimate there too. It delays Thanatos ult right as it strikes down, just immediately turned into the boar, but you can't slow down at Thanatos for too long, and it's so scary to see the Thanatos get up and running so quickly. I mean, Thanatos is a late game god in Smite 2. They are just jonesing to get after that level 20 mark and start trading out with people. To see them pull ahead this early is scary, because now they're going to take the snowball, they're going to take these executes, and they're going to throw it all over across the map. And both Bacchus and Cernunos don't have great ways to escape from the Thanatos. They got their dash, but after that, what's left of them? Especially because Bayoraneri has beads to keep themselves up and afloat against the CC that BullGang has. So now I'm just worried about BullGang and how can they climb themselves back into a winning position here.
Ooh, Moswell looking for a fight here, and there it is. Oh, the crash down! It's enough. Baronary shows up and says, I don't respect this 1v1 on the other side of the map. You lose BullGang, but Donut Doug takes a fall as well. It's a battle of the supports. Aurora looking to find a kill, Sundering Arcs onto Bone Scope. Does it tick for enough? Right now it doesn't. There's a little bit of health left, but Aurora doesn't have that ultimate to help clean it up.
Enough pots as well as a little bit of sustained. Bone Scope will be able to keep themselves alive, and at the very least, a train in the dual lane keeps BullGang in a favorable position. Aurora trying to take a seal here, but maybe they bit off more than they could chew.
Oh, it was really close. Almost confirmed it, but now Aurora playing around with those clones again, trying to make them dodge around, and oh, it's just so good. Hits the wind sprite to get out. We love to see it. The new tech on the map. How are you feeling about the wind sprites here, Musy? We haven't seen them used too much today.
It's kind of like, Mom, can we have Combat Blink? No, we have Combat Blink at home. And this is the Combat Blink at home, right? So I think they're neat. I think they're fun and interesting. It opens up some interesting avenues of play. They go about 10 meters, and for reference, like On Her Leap is 8.8, I believe. So it's a little longer than that. You have to be careful, though. They last just long enough that if you're being chased, it's not a get out of jail free card. It's just a repositioning tool, and the enemy can still follow you after the fact. So a little bit of a double-edged sword there using these wind sprites. You can see now BullGang grouping up around this left side. No Gold Fury to fight over, so the call is going to be to back up and try to find something else on the map.
This is an interesting setup there. Like, they're looking to see, do they step up far enough? And I wonder what was far enough for them to want to play into that. Baronary now just sees the opportunity to go in on Flux. Oh, channels the ultimate, but doesn't die. Looking for a play. This is the second time. No, it ticks away. Flux picks up the kill. Baranary's gone. Donut Doug, though, picks up a kill. Moswell's under attack. Lizard Fuel picks up one. Aurora trying to turn something around, trying to find any sort of damage, but Flux picks up another. It's a 1 for 3. Lizard Fuel lives by just a smidge, but for how long? Dishonored's there, but can't connect the damage, trying to make the way out. But look at where Donut Doug is. Donut Doug running through the other side of the jungle. The communication's there. Does Lizard Fuel live to see another day? And for right now, the answer is yes. Donut Doug still walking behind the tower. Do they get it? Yes, they do. Donut Doug picks up Lizard Fuel. Makes it a little bit more justified for the turnaround there, but still in favor of BullGang for their little bit of counter aggression.
It was definitely a sticky situation. I mean, everybody from BullGang just dog piles on top of this Thanatos, and they have that moment where you're like, okay, I'm out, I'm up in the air, it's fine, I'm good. But you gotta remember, you're up and against an Agni, baby. That tick damage burns away at the health that's remaining and takes that Thanatos out of the sky. And without Thanatos, Bakery kind of falls apart there. I mean, look at where most of the kills for the Bakery are. It is with their jungler and the rest of their roster here. I mean, Merlin, again, we had a chance to talk a bit last game, how we don't feel they're as strong maybe as they need to be. Agni's definitely got the leg up over Merlin in terms of damage output in the early game. And Aurora with this Morgan pick, wonderful pick, love that pick. Lacks a little bit of CC and tankiness, especially up against something like a Bacchus.
Ooh, I like this. A little bit of cheekiness here by Baronary using that stealth grass to, oh wow, and secures the blue buff too. I thought, you know, maybe J-Rod had confirmed it, but it absolutely hadn't. So it was still up, able to get that off the board. And that feels pretty good. You get a little bit of a buff. You don't get much else, but do you really need more? I don't think so. In the mid lane, a little bit of a skirmish there. Roar poking out Bone Scope, sorry, and I just, oh my goodness, Aurora. I think this has to be one of the most annoying picks to deal with in support is when someone can play this Morgan. It's just so frustrating to play against, especially with the aspect.
Being able to flip back and forth the way that she does, I mean, we've already seen Aurora do some pretty gnarly things with it, like baiting out Bacchus flop, walking away in the other direction. Morgan players are still trying to figure out what they prefer between aspect and no aspect, which to me speaks of wonderful design with the aspect when players still don't know which one is quote unquote better. That means you really cooked with something there. So shout outs, whoever was in charge of that. You're my favorite. But Aurora showing that they are the favorite for this game so far, this Morgan pick. I like what they've been doing, but I'm really excited to see what they turn into late game, and if it's going to be something like the Pele again, are we going to offer something like Bacchus? The Bakery have been winning fights, but I don't think we've actually had a chance to see them play, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, this just hasn't been like an actual set team fight. We've seen like a little bit of groupings here or there. The BullGang has really come together a couple times as four, which has been pretty good so far and seems to be to their favor at the moment. But on the other side of this, there's Aurora juking around. Baronari's ult's been used. Oh no, actually, sorry, just came crashing with a wind sprite. Sorry, coming from above, I just thought the crash down was there. But now, here's a nice little groupie. Moswell, Aurora, Baronari are there. Donut Doug a little bit off to the right-hand side. And here we go. Lizardfield finds Aurora. Is it enough? There's the shell. There's the boar. They're looking for the fight now. The Bakery trying to take it to BullGang. Here's Baronari up in the air. Aurora changes into the Pele. Crash down. Baronari misses, but it doesn't matter. Moswell picks up Lizardfield. Baronari takes the spill on the other side. Now, Aurora having to back. It's a 2v3. Looks like Bone Scope might be able to get out. And does after jumping over the wall. Donut, Doug, and Moswell are the ones that are left. Flux looking for a little bit of a play. Just wants to get some poke out. That Gold Fury is up. The question is, do they decide to do anything to go for it? I don't think you can with Flux up, but I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to get a little bit aggressive.
It's so tragic that the Thanatos ult missed there for the Bakery. If that connected, that fight would have gone so much worse for BullGang, because you would have had a Thanatos with their cooldowns reset. They would have had their little bit extra health. They could take some more damage and put some more out. No way. Bakery just quite literally burns away the Gold Fury because of Merlin's fire there. Little cheeky Gold Fury there for the Bakery. Now they're 1-to-1 in terms of Gold Fury pips, so they get to leave the base 50% faster. Good for them. Good to, little something to put in your pocket. So even though I don't want to say they fumble the fight, it wasn't clean, it was a little messy, they still are able to come out on top. So the BullGang once again are in this position of, well, okay, oh man, what am I supposed to do next, right?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And this is one of the few times you'll hear the Bakery and Burn Something go together, and it's okay. You know, they're able to burn down an objective, and that feels all right here. But now look at this position here. Aurora, Dishonor, Baronari swooping in on the right side of the mid lane, trying to find a way in to get a nice little flank off. But I wonder, are they also going to look for a Pyro here? Are they looking to push? As they get a red buff, they're looking to clear out the jungle and push a lead now. The Gold Fury helps spike it a little bit, but this could be problematic for BullGang if the Bakery are allowed to walk around BullGang's jungle in this sort of way. And now here goes the fight. Lizardfield dives in, but Baronari already up in the air is not going to eat too much damage from the Pele. And now they're going to go, but Donut Doug on the other side. There's the shield under the tower, takes down Bullzane, but then falls to Bone Scope. But look at the other side of this, Aurora on the way, trying to, you know, say, hey, support for support. Can we make it happen? 1v1? Oh, maybe for now, but look who's on the way. It's Moswell coming through with the Merlin. There's the Dragon Fire, and burn away goes the Bacchus. A nice exchange here for the Bakery. A 2-for-1 special. The dual lane for BullGang Gong, and they only lose their ADC. But it looks like BullGang is taking this time to also try to take the Pyromancer.
Well, when you see a significant amount of enemy players on the left side of the map, you want to opt for that right side objective. It looks like Thanatos was just short of being able to make a real contention statement, so BullGang will be able to confer themselves that Pyromancer, so they'll have a bomb for their troubles and a little bit of extra global gold for their team, which helps them out. BullGang, that's kind of what they have to do, right? If your opponent zigs, you need to zag. Wherever the enemy is, you should not be, and just try to farm on the opposite side of the map, because you can't really win fights right now. The BullGang composition is very late game oriented, especially relying on this dive composition that they drafted. They need to be able to execute that plan in order to win fights. On the bright side, Aurora is showing us that Pele is very much not quite online, but a threat. I just got to see that from Lizard Fuel instead of Aurora.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Aurora's been turning into Pele and been able to do a lot of work with it, but look at the position in the team fight for Aurora, not having to necessarily dive in, is already there, and everything's set up around them to be able to, you know, execute what the plan and action that needs to happen. But I want to take a look for a second and kind of focus in on the Sobek. Actually, never mind. Donut Doug rotates to the solo lane and says, hey, how's it going, Krabraken? Have you met the boar? It's on the way as I chase you down. And there's a wind sprite to try to get out by J-Rod. The trap a little bit off the mark. There's the health chalice. They're trying to run it down. Sobek on the way. But there's the boar, and it doesn't matter. Magi peels away for now, but J-Rod's going to take a spill here. Donut Doug with the rotation out of dual lane. Something you love to see when your ADC's willing to rotate and help the solo out. And now here goes Baronary, crashes down on the BullGang, and oh my goodness, it's actually double Thanatos. Aurora was the one that came crashing down, and Baronary was the one on the ground. And that's what happens when you have this, the Morgan. There's so many different options of play and so many different plans of action that could take place. And now the Bakery are cooking away. They said it's time for a Fire Giant.
A little bit of double dunk action. That's what you do with your donuts and coffee for the Bakery. Being able to confirm that left side opens up this FG. It's already falling down to half, but Flux is in the area. No bombs. There's one, but no real way to take it away.
I like the positioning here by Bonescope. Actually in the back with the Bacchus, they're not very aware that he is there. They know Flux is there, standing out front. Here comes Bone. Can he get in there? He gets melted away. They just lead him, and then they take the Fire Giant. And look at this. Donut Doug picks up the dagger. Here comes Baronary looking to crash down on the Flux. Finds it. Deleted. And now J-Rod tries to find a way to get out. Tried to peel. Wasn't going to be able to. The bread buff is also going to go the way here of the Bakery. And the Bakery went from cooking up some goods to baking away, as they're also gonna be able to take a tier 1 tower after this Fire Giant. The gold lead that was there has definitely grown quite a bit. J-Rob looking to peel off over by the tier 2 tower, but gets plucked here by Dishonored. Could they find more? Donut Doug stepping up. Aurora's there as well. Ultimates are there. Slowly but surely, they could make a play here. They could decide to get aggressive if they want to. For now, they focus the tower, and that seems to be the plan for now. BullGang probably shouldn't step up too far, or else they might pay the price. And a Gold Fury looks to be on the menu next for the Bakery.
Clearly, the Bakery here knows how they're... this isn't their first rodeo, Blaze. Like,
oh, yeah.
They can handle the BullGang for sure. And even as you see Mr. Nuno's trying to push it to that right side, Gold Fury picked up by the Bakery. They heard about the zigzag tactics that the BullGang was using and said, hey, sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead and get ourselves our second Gold Fury on the map. Ancient Gold Fury spawns next, so the Bakery probably would have prioritized that before making any further pushes, but with this FG buff that they have, it's likely going to be a couple of tier 2 towers. Aurora is out. They're fine.
I was just saying, Aurora in trouble? And then he just turns to the Thanatos and says,
goes
no.
In?
Actually comes crashing down. He's looking to make a play. He goes in on the Pele. Aurora now actually is in trouble in a 1v5 in the mid lane and somehow is still alive. Blinks over to the clone. He is playing hide and go seek and finally takes the spill. Lizardfield picks it up, but not before a tier 2 tower falls to the left-hand side. Aurora getting a little cheeky with it over there in the mid lane and opens up a play for the Bakery. But Musi, you know what the key to good baking is, right? It is a recipe and love. And they have the recipe, they have the plan of action they're wanting to take. That's what we're seeing the Bakery do here at almost 20 minutes into this game at 61,000 gold to 49,000 gold. What is the way for BullGang to get back in this? Because right now, obviously, they're at a bit of a disadvantage, but that doesn't mean they can't come back from this.
I mean, we are what is classically known as uh-oh territory for BullGang. I mean, that gold difference is massive. At this point, we're trying to hunker down around our Phoenixes and try to find as favorable as a fight as possible. With the trouble with these dive comps is that once you fall behind, it gets very difficult to bait your tank because they just get shredded away and die. Bakery doesn't suffer such problems. The foot's on the gas pedal. You got 3 people walking up mid, and with the Cabrakan falling down, Bakery says, hey, we're open for business.
Your right tower
You want some bread? Like,
yeah, I was like, the only good news is Boar is down, so you don't have to worry about Donut Doug. But I think the problem here has been, like, obviously the whole team's been a problem. Bayonary's been doing a ton here on this Thanatos. We have this really unique Sobek build out of Dishonored for the solo lane. But then Aurora has just been problematic. You don't know who he's going to turn into, and whoever he turns into has been very, very useful. And look at this, Thanatos hovering around, waiting for the execute marker to come up. Decides to dive on Lizard Fuel instead, knowing that the Bacchus is going to die, because you know the communication is on key. BullGang gone to Baronary, picks up a couple, and now the mid lane Phoenix is under assault. It looks like the Bakery has baked their way to a victory, as the Titan is the next thing to be looked at here. Cabrakan has respawned, but what does that mean here? The minion wave's on the way in. He walks up, but I don't know that they're too terrified. 4 of them are here. Donut Doug's closer to the right side. It looks like the Bakery are going to choose to slow this down a little bit and not overstep and take a spill.
looks like the mid Phoenix is just going to be the icing on the cake here for the bakery. Make sure we take a look at that right side, tier 2 as well. Big reason why the bakery weren't able to push up there, they didn't have minions, and the rest of the BullGang was going to be respawning pretty soon. So they say, hey, we don't have to get too crazy. We've got our victory. Let's not overextend ourselves. Let's not get too crazy. And I like that restraint, but that's a lot of what I expect from the bakery, especially when you have players like Aurora and Mazel on your team, very experienced players who are like, guys, we don't have to W key this. Let's just back. We have a bunch of gold. A bunch of items are going to get finished off. This is a massive power spike. And with Fire Giant on the way soon as well, it's just going to be that reset, take fire again, make that final push in there. BullGang, you know, you ask yourself, like, how do they even get back into this? But it's going to be tough. It's not impossible. We're thinking, like, what's the best option? I would say if you go to Ancient Gold Fury while Bakery tries to do Fire Giant, at the very least you can get yourself some gold there, and then you don't have to worry about Ancient Gold Fury debuff on your Phoenixes. So that's probably the avenue, and then fight as best as you can around your Phoenixes.
Yeah, I think like the thing that's a problem here is like they're going to push down this tier 2, and do they go for the Phoenix as well? And do the Bakery decide to respawn or stay on fire? For now, they're sticking around. It looks like Thanatos, they're going to channel some backs here and try to go ahead and take care of this. Aurora's already back, already at the Fire Giant. Fire Giant finally does fall, but look at this. Now coming in, Baronary's up in the sky, looking to crash down. Yes, BullGang get aggressive, and they take down a Phoenix, but at the cost of what Bullzane is gone. And this is the play that BullGang needed, but did they bite off more than they could chew here? It seems that they may have. Aurora coming away with a kill on the Lizard Fuel. And now it's just the run and get away so we can defend. But Donut Doug is on your Phoenix on the right-hand side with minions, and it looks like that is going to be absolutely obliterated before you get a chance to arrive. Flux makes an effort to get there, but can't do too much damage as of right now. There's the boar. Does it do the damage you need? But here's the thing, Doug has dagger. You have to be worried here. There's the minions, but does he get the dagger off? There it is, channeling him back to full health. The proper use of the Fire Giant dagger. And then we go and we say, hey, guess what? I'm still going to poke you from far away as my team runs up the mid lane. And now we can get together and we can fight this 5v2. You do have to worry about Lizard Fuel respawning here soon, but I don't know that it's going to make too much of a difference. Kraken trying to run in and do something that gets put down, and the defense was an attempt. I appreciate what BullGang did there, but the Bakery has won the game here by taking down the Titan. What a game and what a executed plan here by the Bakery, Musi. How are you feeling about how they put that together?
Well, it was, I think a lot of it came down to the fact that BullGang making that push onto the left side Phoenix opened themselves up to the possibility of having a wipe. So it wasn't the safest play. I respect the gumption there, that the nod of respect to the aggression, but it leaves your team so vulnerable to exactly what we just saw. The Bakery was already winning fights pretty handily, and when it takes 5 people to put down a roar, not even like 5 minutes previous, you know that clearly there's a team imbalance here where they are not worried about the numbers game as much. They are just worried about how much damage they can put out. It doesn't matter how many health bars get involved. Because of that, the Bakery are able to scoop up their Fire Giant and then just extend their lead.
And I was gonna say, like, obviously at that point, BullGang's at a pretty significant gold disadvantage. I like the idea of going in and saying, okay, we're gonna get this tier 2. I don't know that you send everybody to the Phoenix there. That ended up being the call, and they get caught out. But like the idea was there. They tried to go ahead and say, hey, this is our one chance to get some of this gold back and try to make a difference. It didn't work out this time. Sometimes that's the way of the road. The Bakery came in with an executed plan. Obviously, a roar on this Morgan is something to watch out for. It fit very, very well with the rest of the comp. Bayonary goes crazy, 10, 3, and 8 here on the Thanatos. Doug here, 7, 2, and 10 on the Artemis. These are things to watch out for as we move through this tournament. This is a team that seems to be operating like a well-oiled machine, or, you know, maybe baking a very good cake, some would say, Musi. I can't really say that they had much wrong. There was a couple maybe like points to improve on, but it seems like they are calming and they are working together very, very well.
Well, and another thing too, and you highlighted it, Aurora with this Morgan pick, it felt like Aurora was able to use the drafted characters that BullGang had a little bit more effectively than BullGang themselves. Looking a lot at this Pele, I would see Lizard Fuel go in, and I wasn't seeing that big Pele kaboom that we're used to seeing. And a lot of that is just because never had a chance to get online, never had a chance to make it to that late game Pele hyper carry. But, Aurora, even as early as level 5, they just transform into Pele and they say, well, I mean, I've got a knockup. That's all I need. I trust Donut Doug to be able to follow up. So we're going in, boys. Let's go and win this fight. And they were able to do that more than a few times. And then you see the double dunk between Thanatos and Thanatos 2 from Aurora. And it's just a tale as old as time of, hey, you know what's better than having one Thanatos on your team, having one Pele on your team? Having a second one, having that follow-up,
Yeah, I mean, this was just really well executed. I liked what Aurora did. It's like, okay, I'm going to turn to Pele. So they're kind of expecting that. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to turn to Thanatos. It's like, wait a minute, what? Like, we were expecting the dive by Pele. We weren't expecting the double dive from the air. I really like that the Morgan just offered so much more opportunity here for the Bakery to do some different types of plays around the map. It was very, very fun to watch. But we're now going to go check out the bracket, see where we're at as of right now. Obviously, the Bakery take this game against BullGang. We have to go check how are the other teams doing. Our next, semifinals, Jump Machine versus the Bakery. 2 teams with big names on either side. Could be a fun one to see. We have Content Team 6 still battling it out against the King's Court. Bible Study versus Anna Day Armed Robbers. So we are looking at a pretty fun bracket. We're still got the semifinals and finals heading your way soon enough. But Musi, out of these teams that are left, I mean, who are you looking towards? Who you thinking might end up taking it all today?
Honestly, I'm really I gotta see what's going on in game 38 before I can really make an accurate assessment. But right now, Jump Machine to me seems to be the team that's going to take today, because they were able to handle Cherry Slush, a team that going in, we were like, well, this team's stacked, right? Like, how does anybody stand up to this? But Jump Machine kind of had control of that game the whole way through. They a little bit of stumbling towards the end there as Cherry Slush started to find their stride, but they were able to make that Fire Giant play and just quickly and swiftly ended it. So if they have that same mentality against the Bakery, I think that'll probably carry them through all the ways to the finals. But the Bakery very clearly have a lot cooking in the kitchen there. So if they can pull out some interesting strats or are able to repeat the magic that they did this last game, then, I don't want to call it a coin flip, but they will absolutely give Jump Machine a run for their money.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for both teams to show off and showcase some different things that maybe we haven't seen as of yet. Obviously, the Bakery showed off the Morgan this time around. I'm curious to see, is that something that continues to make it through, or does that shift one of those bands that we've been seeing out? Obviously, Thor has been prioritized, Sobek, Princess Bari, Aphrodite have been things that we've been talking about. But we're going to have to see how that plays out here from looking at the bracket. I'm curious to see, hey, what's going to happen with the 2 sets of bottom games there, and how is that going to play out? What are we seeing from them? Content Team 6 is one that we had our eyes on early on before the stream today. So obviously there's somebody to watch out for, maybe someone that makes a little bit of a move there in the semifinals going to the finals, but we'll have to see. We don't know yet. Slowly but surely we're making our way there, Musi, but I'm excited to see where we go from here. Is there any picks that you haven't seen today that you were expecting to see?
Cupid's like the best hunter in the game right now, right? Where's Cupid?
Here's the deal. I love Cupid. Is he the best hunter in the game? I don't know. I can tell you who the worst hunter in the game is, but Cupid, I would love to see more of him. Worst hunter in the game is Jingwei, by far, and I will die on that sword. I tried her the other day, and it's not good. She needs some help.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I always feel like Cupid is so strong, especially when we have these tank metas, because they bring a lot of sustain, especially with the aspect. And when you go aspect Cupid, you don't really lose too much damage because all of your damage is from your basic attacks, and items like Chin Size, Braggies, Sunbeam Bow really strong right now, pair really well with Pharaohs and Berserkers. So what's going on? I think a lot of it is just we're not seeing Cupid because Anher and Cern have in hand Prot Tread or penetration, and then Artemis is just has the anti get off me button where they say, all right, you're jumping on me, bore, bye, I'm gone, right? I don't want to deal with it. So Maybe we see a composition where Cupid comes out, where we build around it, but I really thought I would see more of it today. Same with Achilles. You know, executes are so important. One of the best executes in the game. You hit it once, you can hit it again. Where's Achilles in all of this? So it's interesting to see players are diving a little bit deeper into their god pools, but also, you know, a good chance to see that, you know, it's not the same patch as before. Clearly, the god selections are a little different this time around. The power stack has shifted from where we were.
I'll say, I think the one I'm surprised that we haven't seen Tiamoja. I expected to see her at least once today. I mean, she brings a lot as a support. She has that lockdown potential. Her paired with Odin usually works really, really well. Obviously, there's a lot of AoE ultimates in the game right now, and we've seen a lot of them today between Kern and O's. You know, Cupid's one we haven't seen, but we've seen Artemis, the Kern, the Poseidon, things like that. So there's some picks I'm definitely a little bit surprised that we haven't seen much of. I'm glad we finally saw Thanatos. I expected to see a bit more of him today because of his execute potential, but also if he gets going early, he gets really, really hard to stop. He just kind of just keeps on running it down. So there's some picks that I would say I'm waiting to see. I think the most surprising pick I've seen today was the Kraken. I didn't expect to see that early in a draft, but sometimes that's the way of the road. But we head over to a break before the semifinals start up here on Smite Prime. We'll be back here in just a few to see what's up next.